Right now, as you read these words, you can hear them, not out loud, inside. A voice in your head, saying each word as your eyes pass over it. It might sound like you, the voice you think in, the one that narrates your day, argues with you, rehearses what you should have said. Stop for a second and listen to it. That voice, reading this sentence to you right now. Most people assume everyone has this, that a mind, by definition, is a place where words echo. But that's not quite right, and the real answer is far stranger. Because for some people, right now, there is no voice. They are reading these same words, and there is only silence, or pictures, or a wordless knowing where the meaning arrives without ever turning into language at all. They are not reading worse than you. They are not less aware. Their mind is simply furnished differently, and until this moment, neither of you knew the other existed. Here's the important part. The voice in your head is not a fact about minds. It's a setting, and it varies more than almost anyone realizes. We have actual evidence for this from one of the strangest experiments in psychology. A psychologist named Russell Hurlburt wanted to know what's really happening in human experience, moment to moment. So he gave people a beeper. They carried it through an ordinary day, and at random moments, it beeped. The instant it did, they froze and recorded exactly what was in their awareness right before the sound. Not what they usually do, what was there in that exact frozen instant. He called it descriptive experience sampling, and what he found should change how you think about your own head. Across his subjects, inner speech, that voice talking in words, showed up in only about 26% of the sampled moments on average. The median was closer to 20. Roughly a quarter of the time, or less. The rest was images, raw emotion, bodily sensation, or awareness with no words in it at all. Sit with what that means for you. Even you, with your busy inner narrator, are probably not talking to yourself nearly as constantly as you assumed. You just never noticed the silence, because the voice can't report its own absence. When it's off, there's no one in there to tell you it stopped. And here's where it gets stranger. The range between people was enormous. Some of Hurlburt's subjects, sampled over and over, never once caught themselves using inner speech. Others were up around 75%. Same beeper. Two people, side by side, living in completely different mental weather. So the voice you take for granted, the one reading this to you, isn't standard equipment. It's one texture of mind on a wide spectrum, and you happen to land where you landed. But that's only half the story, because at the very far, quiet end of that spectrum, there are people who say they have no inner voice at all. And in 2024, science finally gave it a name. Researchers Johan Medergaard and Gary Lupien, publishing in the journal Psychological Science, coined the word anendophasia. It means a lack of inner speech, a mind that does not narrate itself in words. And they didn't just name it, they studied what it changes. In their experiments, adults who reported very little inner speech did worse on a verbal working memory task, holding words in mind, and worse at judging whether two words rhymed than people with a loud inner voice, which makes a strange kind of sense. To check whether comb and home rhyme, you might quietly say them to yourself. If there's no voice to say them with, that trick isn't available. But, and this matters, on other tasks, like switching between rules, there was no difference at all. This isn't about being smarter or slower. It's about having different tools for the same job. Now, here is where an honest channel has to slow down, because this is the part most videos skip. In 2025, a commentary led by researcher Andreas Lind and colleagues pushed back. Not to say anendophasia is fake, but to ask a hard question. When someone reports having no inner voice, do they truly have absolutely none? Or do they have a very faint, very occasional one they simply don't notice or don't count? Because here's the problem. The only window we have into someone's inner voice is them telling us about it. And measuring the absence of something in a place no one else can ever look is genuinely hard. So the honest truth is this. Anendophasia is real and fascinating, and people clearly differ enormously. But scientists are still debating whether the quietest minds have almost none or truly absolutely none. And sitting with that uncertainty, instead of pretending it's solved, is the difference between curiosity and clickbait. Which leaves a deeper question hanging in the air. If the voice isn't guaranteed, where does it come from? Why do most of us end up with a narrator at all? You weren't born narrating yourself. One of the most influential answers came almost 100 years ago from a psychologist named Lev Vygotsky in his work Thought and Language. Watch a young child play alone, he noticed. They talk out loud to themselves, narrating, instructing, scolding. Put it there. No, the red one. Vygotsky called this private speech, and he argued it doesn't disappear as the child grows. It goes underground. Over childhood, the talking out loud gets quieter and quieter until one day it slips entirely inward and becomes silent. If he's right, then the voice in your head is not something you were born with. It's something you learned. An echo of a small child, somewhere in your past, talking out loud, who slowly went quiet on the outside and kept the conversation going on the inside, forever. The voice reading this to you might be the last trace of a kid you don't even remember being. And once you accept that minds are built differently, not just tuned differently, something opens up. It isn't only the voice that varies. There's another layer to this, and it might be the strangest part of all. Close your eyes for a moment and picture an apple. Most people see one, a shape, a color, a little glow of red behind the eyes. But some people see nothing. No apple. No image at all. They can think about an apple, know everything about it, and yet summon zero picture. Ask them to imagine the face of someone they love, and there is only darkness and knowing. Around 2015, the neurologist Adam Zeman gave this its own name, aphantasia, a mind with no mind's eye. And at the opposite end, hyperphantasia, where imagined images are as vivid as real sight. So look at what we found. Some minds run on words, some on pictures, some on both at once, a voice narrating over a movie, and some on neither, just silent, imageless, wordless understanding. 4 completely different inner worlds, and almost no one ever discovers the others exist because we can't climb inside each other's heads to compare. The richest country in the universe is the one behind another person's eyes, and you will never visit it. And if your own narrator sometimes turns on you, the news isn't all unsettling. The psychologist Ethan Kross, in his 2021 book Chatter, describes that inner voice as both a coach and a critic, and he found it can be managed, almost like a tool. One simple trick: talking to yourself using your own name, as if advising a friend from a step back, can quiet the spiral. Not, I can handle this, but you can handle this. The voice isn't your master, it's an instrument you're still learning to play. So here's the truth this leaves you with. For your entire life, you've assumed everyone's mind sounds like yours. That when you say, I was thinking, everyone means the same thing you do. But the person sitting next to you right now might live in silence, or in pictures, or in pure wordless knowing. And you'd never know, because their thoughts reach you only after they've been translated into the one language you both share. You will never hear another person's mind the way you hear your own. You only ever get the translation. And maybe that leaves one last unsettling question. That voice in your head, the one that just reached the end of this sentence with you, is it really you doing the thinking? Or just something you learned to do out loud as a child that never learned to stop? So let me know in the comments. When you read this, did you hear a voice, see pictures, or something else entirely? I genuinely want to know how quiet or how loud it is in there. Because until today, you assumed it sounded like everyone's.